You survived the storm, the relationship ended, the diagnosis came, the pressure at work eased up, but your body is still bracing for impact. Like something bad is about to happen, even when everything around you looks fine. And maybe you've asked yourself things like, well, why am I still anxious even when nothing's wrong? Why can't I relax when I finally have time to rest? Why do I feel unsafe when I'm not even in danger? You're experiencing something that so many women, especially those who've lived in survival mode for years, go through. And that is hidden hypervigilance. So this sense of being on edge, even in peace, of feeling unsafe, even in the calm moments. You feel like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop when there isn't even another shoe. So in today's video, we are going to gently explore what happens through the lens of your nervous system, through your past experiences, and even your biology. And we'll show you how to start creating a sense of real safety inside of your body, not by pushing yourself to just relax, but by listening, tending to, and retraining your nervous system to truly feel safe again. So here's the thing that we don't often get told. And that is that the nervous system doesn't understand language, at least not the primal part of the brain. So it doesn't respond to logic. It doesn't listen to positive thinking the way that the rest of your nervous system and brain do. It responds to sensation, to patterns, and to perception. So your body is constantly scanning your environment for one thing, and that is, are we safe or not? So it does this through neuroception, which is just a fancy word for how your body picks up on these safety cues or these threats. And it's a very automatic process where you don't need conscious input. So it's not asking, hey, is this objectively safe? It's asking, does this feel familiar? And did that familiar thing used to be dangerous? Think about it being like a newborn baby. They don't have the ability to talk, to process what you're saying to them. They are going based on patterns and feelings and familiarity. And if you've lived through chronic stress, through trauma, through instability, your body learns to detect threat that is in places that might now be perfectly calm because your system was trained to survive and not to relax. So let's go through an example. Imagine you lived in a house where the quiet moments always came before something exploded, whether that was emotionally, physically, or energetically. And even now, years later, when everything is calm, your body might go to, wait, last time it was this quiet, something bad happened. And so your heart races. Your breath gets shallow, your muscles tense, you can't sleep, you snap at your partner. Not because you're dramatic or dysfunctional, but because your nervous system is trying to keep you safe the way that it always has. It's like having a smoke detector that goes off not just for the fire, but for toast, for candles, for sunlight. The alarm isn't broken, it's just hypersensitive. And unless we gently retrain it, that alarm keeps going off, even when you're finally okay. So this is what we call hidden hypervigilance. And it's incredibly common in people who have lived in survival mode for a very, very long time. It's the reason that you can go on vacation and finally get some rest and then suddenly feel anxious out of nowhere. Or maybe you get into a healthy relationship and then you start sabotaging it because your system doesn't know what to do with calm. It's not just emotional, it is biological, physiological. Your body remembers what your mind has tried to move past. And that's not your fault. But the good news is that this can absolutely change. But first, we have to understand what chronic survival mode does to the way that we perceive the world. So let's talk about that. Because when you've lived in that chronic survival mode, even without the really big, obvious, big T trauma, your nervous system becomes wired for protection instead of presence. So you start to see life through the lens of what if or what's next. And again, it's a physiological response. So what does that even look like? when you're in survival mode, whether it's due to burnout, chronic illness, childhood stress, relationship traumas, your amygdala, which is the brain's fear center, stays activated for a lot longer than it should. That means that neutral situations start to feel threatening. Minor setbacks can feel catastrophic. Rest feels unsafe, and silence doesn't feel peaceful, it feels suspicious. So let's say that you got a message from a friend that says, "Hey, can we talk later?" And someone with a regulated nervous system might say, "Yeah, sure, I wonder what's up." But if you're living in a survival patterned body, your system might say, "Well, what did I do wrong? Are they mad? Did I mess up again? Am I about to be abandoned?" It's not just you overthinking, and it's not a personality trait. It is a learned threat response that has been shaped by your past. And what's worse is that because your body is flooded with all of this cortisol and adrenaline, even in lower levels, your brain literally cannot access calm logic or reasoning until it feels safe again. So when people tell you to just stop overthinking, it's not that simple with chronic stress. Your nervous system has to believe that you're safe first, and that safety has to come from more than just words. So another hallmark of this chronic survival mode is feeling wired but tired. I'm sure you've heard that going around the internet these days. You've probably even felt it. Your body feels like it's buzzing and you're mentally exhausted. You can't relax, you can't focus on a task. Maybe you're trying to do 10 things at once. You can't remember why you walked into a room. You're trying to rest, but you feel agitated, fidgety, restless. You lie in bed at night. You're exhausted. And as soon as your head hits the pillow, then your mind starts racing, thinking about everything you did that day, everything you could have said differently, done differently. What about tomorrow? What about next week? What about next month? And that's because your stress hormones are still running in the background, even if that danger is long gone. It's like trying to sleep in a house where the smoke alarm is chirping every 4 to 5 minutes. Your body never fully settles, and just when it's about to fall asleep, you get that shock awake. So when that cortisol remains really high over time, your hippocampus, which is the part of your brain that helps with memory and emotional regulation, can start to shrink. And then the amygdala, which we said was the fear center, starts to become overactive. That's like your smoke alarm, right? This literally rewires your sense of what is safe and what is threatening. So it makes really small issues feel huge, and it makes calm moments feel really eerie and uncomfortable. So if this does feel like you, if you are constantly bracing, doubting, over-prepping, or feeling like you can never let your guard down, I want you to know that you have been surviving for a long time. Your brain is not broken. Your body is not dysfunctional. Your system got really good at protecting you. But your nervous system is plastic. It can learn new patterns. But before we talk about how to rebuild that internal safety, we need to talk about why calm might not feel safe in the first place. So, something that might be a little confusing, but can be very validating once it clicks, is what I call the safety paradox. So it's this really strange, almost shameful experience of finally being in a calm season, whether it's an environment, a relationship, a job, a home, where nothing chaotic is happening around you. And yet your body still feels tense. It feels uneasy. It feels on edge, sometimes even more anxious than before. And here's why that happens. For many of us who've lived in chronic stress, in chaos, or emotional unpredictability, calm doesn't automatically feel safe. It can feel foreign. And the body treats that unfamiliarity as potential danger. So your nervous system is shaped by repetition, not necessarily reasoning, at least the primal part of the brain that we're talking about. So if you've spent years in environments where peace was rare or even dangerous, your body learned to associate that calm with anticipation. So maybe those quiet moments in your childhood only came right before someone was yelling or throwing things. Maybe the stillness came just before the next medical emergency. Maybe calm meant abandonment, it meant neglect, or the calm before the storm. So now, when life is finally calm, your body doesn't recognize it as safe. And it goes, hey, this is unfamiliar. This is suspicious. We need to stay ready. And boom, you're back into bracing mode. And that is a learned nervous system response. So when we are in long-term fight, flight, or freeze mode, our body becomes addicted to the stress chemicals, things like adrenaline, cortisol, even dopamine that can come from hyperproductivity. So when these chemicals drop, it can feel really flat, disorienting, and even threatening. And that discomfort alone can send your nervous system into a mini spiral. So here's a few signals that you may be in a safety paradox. Maybe you feel guilty for resting. Maybe you pick fights in stable relationships. You cry when things finally start to slow down. You might feel anxious after accomplishing a goal, or you constantly wait for the other shoe to drop. Here's an example from me when I was in chiropractic school. I was in a room full of other students. There were about 45 of us in there, and we were all palpating for basically subluxations to see if someone needed an adjustment. And I had found where someone needed an adjustment in their pelvis, and the instructor guided me through it. And I was in a very stressed state at that point in my life. And I did the adjustment properly. She got her relief. She felt better. And as soon as it was completed, the professor screamed really loudly and was really excited, and everyone else got excited. And I just started crying. Not happy tears, but like having a panic attack. And that's because my system was so overwhelmed. I had accomplished a really big goal. That was one of my first adjustments. But I felt anxious afterwards. And what happened? My mind was racing. Well, can I ever do that again? Was that a one-time situation? What does everyone else think? Are they thinking that I did it wrong? I should have adjusted my angle. I should have adjusted the force, etc. So these types of reactions can make perfect sense when we view them through a trauma-informed lens. And they're not signs that we're sabotaging our healing. They are signs that our body is learning what safety feels like. And at first, that learning process can feel very, very uncomfortable. So if those calm moments feel hard for you, if peace feels unsafe, accomplishments feel anxious, or even life gets boring for you, you might be right on track. Because this disorientation, can mean that your body is starting to realize, hey, we don't have to be in survival mode anymore. And while your system might still resist that truth, it can learn a new rhythm. So now that we understand why you might feel unsafe, even when life is calm, let's talk about how we can start rebuilding safety inside of the body. And again, we can't necessarily do this by forcing ourselves to just relax, or by ignoring the tension or the pain, but by slowly and consistently showing the nervous system that that danger has passed and that it's safe to soften. That internal safety isn't a one-time breakthrough. It's something that you have to build over time, kind of like a nest. Think about how long it takes birds to go find sticks and straw and animal fur to build their nests. It gets put together bit by bit and moment by moment. So when we are stuck in survival mode, we often rely on control in order to feel safe. Whether that's control over our schedule, control over our food, our relationships, our emotions. But true safety doesn't come from the control, it comes from connection. Connection to your body, to your breath, your rhythms, your needs. And that's why the first step is to start noticing. To start noticing without fixing. So right now, go ahead and put your hand on your chest and just feel your breath. Ask yourself, what is here right now? And you don't have to rush. You don't have to automatically interpret it or judge it. Just notice what comes up. And that's the start of rewiring. And your mind might not believe that you're safe, but your body has these built-in gateways that can help it to remember. So 3 that you can start with are touch, breath, and movement. So like we've just done, you can place your hand on your heart, on your belly, on the back of your neck, maybe even in your lap. And this gentle touch tells the body that I am here, and I am okay, and I am safe. And breath work, where we have inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth, making sure that the exhalation is longer than the inhalation, can activate that vagus nerve that calms your brainstem, calms the amygdala, that fear center. And it doesn't have to be long term, just a few minutes of this type of breathing can trigger that vagus nerve to relax everything else. And then slow and rhythmic movement. Just moving your body in the way that it feels like it needs to move. Whether that's rocking or swaying, walking outside barefoot, something rhythmic and gentle and slow can help regulate that inner rhythm. And each of these cues starts to tell yourself and your nervous system that you don't have to brace. Now, we also talked about familiarity being another way to teach the nervous system that it's safe. And remember that nervous system learns through repetition. So instead of really big dramatic healing moments, which we all want sometimes, because when you've been stuck in survival mode for a long time and you're dealing with chronic illnesses or symptoms that are very mysterious and undiagnosed, we want it gone immediately. But when we focus on the really small, the frequent safety cues throughout the day that create that familiarity, that is what's going to be best long term. So one of the simplest ways you can do this is creating a night routine. Obviously, a nighttime routine is going to look different for everyone, but mine is typically cooking dinner, working out, taking a quick shower or a bubble bath, and then focusing on skincare, brushing my teeth, and then relaxing for the evening. Usually I curl up in a little nook I have in my house. I read a book, or I work on my laptop for a little while, and then I get ready for bed and I go to sleep. And when you have a simple, familiar, consistent routine where you are going to bed at the same time, you are doing the same things, it can feel monotonous, right? Some people can say that it feels boring, and I do understand that. But they are neural anchors. They are safety for your nervous system. It gives your body something that is familiar to relax into. And over time, those little moments start to really stack up into a new baseline of safety for your nervous system. If you felt like you have to do everything alone, this can be very tender, but healing isn't meant to be a solo mission. I had to learn that the hard way. Co-regulation, where you feel safe with another human being who is regulated, is one of the most powerful ways to rewire safety. So that can look like sitting next to someone who makes you feel calm, listening to a gentle, grounded voice, watching a video like this where you feel seen and you feel steady, reading the comments of our YouTube section, or even joining our community on Discord. Your nervous system can borrow regulation from others until it remembers how to generate it on its own. And that is how we were designed to heal, together, right? So this last one is also very, very important. And I know that it's very tempting to want to rush this part, to feel better now, to feel safety in your body like it's a checklist, like there's one path that you have to take, that it's meant to be simple and easy and quick. But that only activates the same stress response that we're trying to calm. So let your healing be slow. Let it move at its own pace. Let it be quiet. Let it be deeply yours. Ask yourself, what is one small thing that I can do today to remind my body we are safe? And put that in the comments below. Maybe it is taking a walk outside. Maybe it's listening to your favorite song. Maybe it's praying or meditating or doing some yoga, or maybe it's doing breath work. And that's enough. That can be enough. right? You're not behind. You are just learning to feel again. And I also want to mention that some days you are going to feel really soft and really grounded and like you're making some headway. And other days it might feel like the tension comes back tenfold. And that doesn't mean that you're back at square one. It means that your nervous system is showing you where it still needs care. Just like a muscle that's been tight for years starts to ache when it releases, your body might feel uncomfortable as it learns what ease actually feels like. And let that be okay. Let yourself be in process. So if this resonated for you today, if something in you softened, sighed, felt validated, or recognized, I want to say thank you for being here, truly, because I know this can be very tender and raw work, and that deserves to be met with compassion instead of urgency. And if you would like more support on this journey, you can check out the links below, which are designed to take you step by step through safety, regulation, and long-term resilience. And we try to keep everything gentle and accessible and rooted in everything that we've talked about today. And you can also join our free community, The Garden, where we do practice co-regulation, we share wins with one another and setbacks, we encourage each other, and remind each other that we are not alone in this. So all of the links are below if you want to explore, and if nothing else, let this video be your reminder that it is okay to feel what you feel, and that healing doesn't always look graceful. Sometimes it can look like bracing and softening, and bracing, then softening again. Until next time, be gentle with yourself and keep bloomin' well.